ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतस्य सेवया भागवतोत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 8. Etan me prachata sarvam sarvajña sagaleshvara vijanihi yate vedam aham buddhye nusa sitaha. Etan me pracharata sarvam sarvajña sakaleshvara vijanihi yate vedam aham buddhye nusa sitaha. Word-to-word meaning. Etat, all those, me, unto me, prachata, inquisitive, sarvam, all that is inquired, sarvajña, one who knows everything, sakala, overall, Ishvara, the controller, vijanihi, kindly explain, yata, as, eva, they are, idam, this, aham, myself, buddhye, can understand, anusasita, just learning from you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Savai Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: My dear Father, you know everything and you are the controller of all. Therefore, may all that I have inquired from you be kindly instructed to me so that I may be able to understand it as your student. Purport. The inquiries made by Narada Muni are very important for everyone concerned. And as such, Narada requested Brahmaji to deem them suitable so that all others who may come in the line of disciplic succession of the Brahma Sampradaya may also know them properly without any difficulty. Thus in the Bhaktivedanta reports. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayambharupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Gurum Sri Gita Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tamsa Jeevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamsya He Krishna Karano Sindho Deenabanto Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantarada Kanmostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatrupyasya Kripa Sindhupi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishvanebhyo Namo Namaha Namarom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Idinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatarani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, and thank you all for joining this discussion on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we get started on this particular verse, discussing this particular verse of the Bhagavatam. As you all know, Bhagavatam is so beautiful to discuss. In fact, the Bhagavatam itself says in the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam, it said, Tadeva Ramyam Ruchiram Navam Navam Tadeva Shashvam Manaso Mhotsav. In the 12th canto, 12th chapter, verse number 50, the glories of discussing about the Lord is very beautifully explained. So there it says, Tadeva Ramyam Ruchiram Navam Navam. Whenever there is an opportunity to discuss about the Lord, about his pastimes, about the scriptures concerning the Lord, it gives us newer and newer experiences. Ruchiram Navam Navam. There's new taste that emanates whenever these discussions happen. So, when we get a chance to discuss on the Bhagavatam, irrespective of how many times we have gone through some of these discussions or how much ever we read, there is newer and newer taste that comes out of this discussion. So, with that background, we'll start today's verse. In fact, all the verses of the Bhagavatam are a festival to the mind. That's why it said Manaso Mahotsava. Utsava means festival. So that which gives the festival, there's a constant festival that happens in the mind when we discuss about the pastimes of the Lord. So today's verse, 258 of the Bhagavatam, says, Etan me prachata sarvam sarvajña sakaleshvara vijanihi ete vedam aham buddhye nusasita. This is a very beautiful verse where this is spoken by Narada Muni to Brahmaji. So Narada Muni is speaking to Brahmaji. As we all know, Brahmaji is Narada's father. And Narada Muni is speaking this verse to his father, asking instructions from him. So Narada Muni is taking the position of a student to understand from Brahmaji. What he wants to understand from Brahmaji? He wants to understand the process of creation. That's why this chapter is called the process of creation. So in the previous chapter, we discussed about the prayers of Sukadeva Goswami to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this all started when Parikshit Maharaj wanted to understand how this creation happens. That's where it all started. And so Sukadeva Goswami, before explaining that, he invoked the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He chanted prayers glorifying the Lord. And after doing that glorification, Sukadeva Goswami started to explain. But instead of him explaining this directly, the process of creation, he referred to a conversation that already happened on this topic between Narada Muni and Brahmaji. So he used that conversation as a basis to explain this process of creation. See, throughout the Bhagavatam, this is one pattern that we will see. That everywhere where something has to be explained, if that topic has already been discussed, instead of discussing the topic or giving our own opinion on the topic, all of the exalted personalities here would have taken reference from a conversation that has already happened. Just like how when Sutta Goswami is explaining to the sages in Naimisharanya, this topic of the Bhagavatam, he is referring to the conversation that happened between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And here Sukadeva Goswami, when he's explaining the process of creation, he is using the authoritative statements or the discussions that happened between Brahmaji and Narada. Similarly, when we go to the third canto, we'll see that Sukadeva Goswami will use the conversation that happened between Maitreya and Vidura. And like that in the Bhagavatam, the seventh canto, the discussion between Narada and Yudhishthira, Narada and Prachani Parishad. Like that, in the Bhagavatam, wherever conversations have happened between two great personalities, those conversations are used as reference to talk about the subject matter. See how important this principle is, which is why when we read the Bhagavatam, we also accept it in a similar fashion. We accept it in terms of how it has been written by a predecessor Acharya. That's why we read the Bhaktivedanta purports, because this is something that Prabhupada has written. So instead of us forming an opinion on the Bhagavatam, we take inference from what Srila Prabhupada has written. And Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote this Bhagavatam, he took inspiration from his predecessor Acharyas. So that is how the knowledge is disseminated. The knowledge is disseminated to us through the system of parampara. And which is why in most of the scriptures, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when any topic is being spoken about, there is always a reference to that conversation that has already happened, because the conversation has happened between two exalted personalities, and whatever is spoken by them is complete in itself. So, Sukadev Goswami is using this conversation that happened between Brahma and Narada. And before getting into this topic of explaining this process of creation, Narada Muni, when he's trying to question this to Brahmaji, wants to take the position of a student to understand his instruction. In the previous verses to this verse, Narada Muni would have praised Brahmaji. He would have praised Brahmaji as somebody who understands the science perfectly, as somebody who understands this philosophy of being the controller perfectly. He will in fact tell Brahmaji that you know the past, you know the present, you know the future as well, because you're the controller. In this verse also he says, right, my dear father, you know everything and you're the controller of all. So Narada Muni gives the position of a master to Brahmaji, and he takes the position of a student. See, this principle of accepting a master and becoming a student is very important. And especially important in this context because, as we all know, Narada Muni is not an ordinary personality. Narada Muni knows everything. That's why it's called Narada. Narada means Dadatitam Narayana. Somebody who gives Narayana to everyone is called Narada. In Sanskrit, this word dha, just like we say Yashodha. Yashoda means somebody who gives fame to everyone. It's called Yashoda. Yashoda. Kirtida. Kirtida and Yashoda, the meaning is the same. Da means giving. Right? So Narada means Dadatitam Narayana. He gives Narayana to everyone. Now, that is the position of Narada Muni. So that Narada Muni, who actually knows everything, he actually knows the conclusion of the Vedas. He's complete in knowledge. Even though he's complete in knowledge, he's still taking the position of a student to understand the science. You see, a similar sentiment was shared by Arjuna also in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna, when he wanted to understand the instructions, that is before Arjuna became a student of the Bhagavad Gita, he was a friend of Lord Krishna, and he was trying to make various arguments to understand the science of the soul and all of that. But the minute he took the position of a student and he started hearing the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, everything was clear. So in chapter 2, text 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Karpanya dosha prahata swabhavam prachami tvam dhamma samuda tejaha yashreya nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham sadimam tam prapannam. So a similar expression is expressed by Arjuna, where he says, now I'm confused about my duty and I've lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now, I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto me. Please instruct. See, actually, Arjuna also knows the science of Bhagavad Gita. It's not that Arjuna is a scholar. He knows everything. But still, to understand the instructions, not only for himself, but for the entire world, to propagate this instruction, great personalities take the role of a student. So that by taking that role of a student, they are able to communicate this understanding to all concerned. That's the position of a great devotee. A devotee never thinks that, I know everything. No. He's happy to take the position of a student to receive the instructions clearly, and at the same time use that as an opportunity to disseminate this knowledge to everyone. So Arjuna does the very same thing here. In fact, then that is after this particular instruction, after this particular request by Arjuna, Krishna starts giving the instruction on the Bhagavad Gita, and everything becomes clear to Arjuna. That's why in the 18th chapter, Arjuna says, Nashta moha smriti labdha. I'm clear, all my confusion is gone. So only after we take the position of a student, only after we take the position of a servant, everything becomes clear. And the same thing is done here by Narada Muni. Narada Muni is accepting Brahmaji. Sorry, Narada Muni is accepting Brahmaji as his spiritual master, and he's asking him to instruct. And Brahmaji is qualified. Brahmaji is completely qualified to instruct. Because this message of Vedas, this message of devotional service, was originally spoken by the Lord to Brahma. And that is confirmed in the very first verse of the Bhagavatam. Janmadhyasya keta tartascharteshva abhignaswarat tene brahma hridaye adikavaye muyanti yat suraya. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya keta mayat इतरतश्चार्तेषु अभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदये आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत् सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरष्टकोऽहं सत्यं परं धीमहि. So the important word here is tene brahmahridaye adikavaye muhyanti yat suraya. So Lord Brahma was the first person to whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave this instruction of Vedic knowledge. So before anybody in this world understands this knowledge, Brahmaji has already understood this knowledge. And how did Brahmaji attain this knowledge? Of course, that's also explained in the Bhagavatam, that he went into deep penance, performed austerities. That is when the Lord manifested in his heart. That's why it said, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavi. Through his heart, the Supreme Lord gave instructions to Brahma. So that is how Brahma received this instruction. And which is why Lord Brahma is qualified to actually talk on this topic to Narada. So we have a situation where we have a perfect master. The reason we have a perfect master is the master is coming from a disciplic section. The master has understood that knowledge from the Supreme Lord directly, and that is Brahmaji. And at the same time, we also have a perfect student. Perfect student here is Narada Muni. Why do we say Narada Muni is a perfect student? In fact, Narada Muni knows everything. In fact, in the previous verse, the verse previous to this, Narada Muni would have said, he would have already hinted, right, that there is somebody more supreme than you. See, this verse he says, yet we are moved to wonder about the existence of someone more powerful than you when we think of your great austerities in perfect discipline, although your good self is so powerful in the matter of creation. So though Narada Muni is praising Brahmaji, telling him that he is the controller, at the same time, the previous verse is indicated that we know that we are made to wonder that there is somebody beyond you. So which means Narada Muni knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is responsible for the process of creation. But still, knowing that, he takes the position of a student as a disciple to understand this knowledge. See, this is very important. That's why he says, Vijanehi yate vedam aham buddhyenu sasitaham. Oh, please instruct me on this knowledge. I'm taking the position of a student. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyantate jnaninas tattvadarshana. That if one wants to understand this truth, right, the supreme truth, then one has to take the shelter of a person who has seen the truth. And in what mentality? He should submissively inquire and render service unto him. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. And Prabhupada, in this purport, very beautifully explains this particular phrase here. One should not only hear submissively from the spiritual master, but also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service, submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind towards his disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries become perfect. You see, this is the sentiment, or this is the approach that Narada Muni takes when he's trying to inquire this knowledge from Brahmaji. He's not telling Brahmaji, I already know all of this, so please tell me. That is not the position that Narada Muni is taking. Narada Muni is taking this position of a servant and he's submissively asking, "Oh, please explain this knowledge." Actually, if you look at it, even Parikshit Maharaj is also this grandson of Arjuna. In fact, his name is Parikshit because he was able to examine the Lord even when he was in his mother's womb. So when he was in the womb of Uttara, his mother, Parikshit Maharaj could examine the Lord. That's why he was called Parikshit, somebody who could examine the Lord, which means he already had darshan of the Lord when he was in the womb of his mother. But even then, when Parikshit Maharaj only had 7 days to live, he went after seeking that knowledge from an exalted personality like Sukadeva Goswami. So this principle of approaching a great personality and seeking knowledge is something that we are seeing that even great personalities are doing. Even when Krishna personally appeared in this world, he took instructions from Sandipani Muni. Right? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared in this world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is complete in itself. Nimai Pandit, he knows everything. But still, he took instructions from Ishwarapuri. So, we have so many examples where even if they are great personalities, they want to take instructions from another great personality. So that this humility gets imbibed. This is the basic principle of becoming a student, is that the humility gets manifest within the heart. So, going back to this verse, Narada Muni is seeking instructions from Brahmaji. Because if you want to understand this process of creation and how this creation happened, Brahmaji was part of it. He is the person who has experienced it all. So, which is why Narada Muni is seeking instructions from Brahmaji. And Brahmaji, being the perfect master, is giving instructions to the perfect student. And this is how the relationship is established. We can see for ourselves, many times when we want to understand something, we want to understand a particular science. If you want to understand a particular concept, even though we would have read about it ourselves, when we approach somebody who's bona fide, who's an expert, then that particular aspect becomes very clear to us. We are able to assimilate that principle very clearly. Because what is important is when we understand the instructions, it is not only the instructions that flow, but it's also the mercy that gets manifest through those instructions. And that is why it becomes easier for us to assimilate that knowledge. And this is evident, especially when we look at the life of all great personalities. This is how they have understood that knowledge. In fact, Narada Muni further goes on to explain how a student should be. While here he is taking the position of a student, in the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni explains how a student should actually approach the spiritual master. It's in the 7th canto, 12th chapter. So this is where Narada Muni explains. He says, see how a student should approach it. Sri Narada Uvacha Brahmachari Gurukule Vasan Dhanto Gurur Hitam Acharan Dashavannicho Gurush Sudradha Sauhrada. Narada Muni said a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukula only for the benefit of the Guru. He further goes on to explain, this is second verse, at both junctions of day and night, namely the early morning and in the evening, he should be fully absorbed in the thoughts of the spiritual master via the sun god and Lord Vishnu, and by chanting the Gayatri Mantra, he should worship him. See how the student should approach the spiritual master. Narada Muni is giving instructions. He further explains, being called by the spiritual master, the student should study the Vedic mantras regularly. Every day before beginning his studies and at the end of his studies, the disciple respectfully offer obeisances on his master. So this is how a student should approach the spiritual master. And when this approach is there, then all of the knowledge that the spiritual master wants to give becomes manifest to the student. This is further explained in the 11th canto, 11.3.21. So, I think, I should go to the Veda base. Okay. 11.3.20.
21 true.
21, yeah. Tasmat Guru Prapadyante Giknyashu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parechan Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. You see, this is why Brahmaji's position and Narada Muni's position, both of them qualify as the perfect spiritual master and the perfect student. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he's realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation, which Brahmaji hasn't, which is why he's called Adi Kaveri. And he's able to convince others of those conclusions. Such great personalities have taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual master. And then this goes on, the next verse is explained how the student should be. Tatra Bhagavatam Dharman Shikshayat Guru Atma Daivata Amayayanu Vratyayis Tushyed Atmata Dohari. Accepting the bona fide spiritual master as one's life and soul and worshipable deity, the disciple should learn from him the process of pure devotion service. The Supreme Personality called Hari, the soul of all souls, is inclined to give himself to his pure devotees. Therefore, the disciple should learn from the spiritual master to serve the Lord without duplicity and in such a faithful and favorable way that the Supreme Lord, being satisfied, will offer himself to the faithful. So, for the Supreme Lord to actually offer himself to the faithful disciple, this correction of Guru is required. So, actually, this knowledge was given by the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva, to Brahma, right? Now, the same knowledge can be easily manifested to Narada also. But it is very clearly explained in this verse that when the student seeks instructions from the spiritual master, what happens is the Supreme Lord, who is satisfied, then transmits that knowledge through the via media of the spiritual master. And this is why a spiritual master is required, very, very important in spiritual life. For that matter, even in our material experiences, we see, right, anything that we want to learn, we have to approach somebody who's higher to us. And it's so much so important in spiritual aspect of things. So this verse very clearly explains that the disciple should learn from the spiritual master to serve the Lord without duplicity and in such a faithful and favorable way that the Supreme Lord being satisfied. So by serving the spiritual master, the Supreme Lord is satisfied and will offer himself to the faithful. So this is exactly what is happening in this transmission of knowledge between Brahma and Narada. In fact, the entire Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya to which we belong, this knowledge has actually come to us in this form. It has always come to us in the process of one spiritual master explaining this knowledge to the other. And all the great personalities in this line of disciplic succession, they have understood this knowledge this way. You take the example of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for example. Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is called a living encyclopedia. So much so, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a great scholar. And his father was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we all know how great Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is. He's a seventh Goswami. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared in this world, almost all of the knowledge was manifest to him. He knew everything. It is said that at the age of 7, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to attend classes, so he never used to pay attention to the teacher. The teacher will keep saying, repeating a lot of subjects. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it's called Bimal Prasad then, never used to pay attention to what was happening in the class. So the teacher used to be very upset with him. The teacher will suddenly ask Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bimal Prasad, You seem to be completely off. What is it that you've learned? Can you explain it to me? In a matter of seconds, Vimal Prasad would explain everything. Even though it would have apparently looked that he has not paid attention, he would have assimilated the knowledge so well just by hearing that the teacher would get completely amazed. How is it that the student is able to tell all of this? He doesn't seem to be paying attention to the classes. But when I'm asking him on any subject matter related to the class, he is able to repeat it just instantly. So such was a scholarly frame with which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was made up. Such a great scholar. He knew everything. But in spite knowing everything, in spite being such a great scholar, in spite having Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as his father, still Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to take initiation from Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who was an illiterate. So Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj was actually an illiterate from a material standpoint. He was an illiterate. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur somehow wanted to take initiation. And he spent, he literally gave himself to Gaurakishore Das Babaji. Gaurakishore Das Babaji was not interested in giving initiation to. He was testing him. He told him, "Go. I don't want to accept any disciples." But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very firm because his father had told him, "You have to take instructions from Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj. If this knowledge has to manifest to you, it can come only through the mercy of Gaurakishore Das." And so finally, Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj accepted Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his disciple. So this very clearly shows that irrespective of how much knowledge we may have, how good we may be in understanding, we can quote a lot of slokas, we can talk many verses, we can understand Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam from what you have written, what has been written and all of that. But in spite of all of this, if this knowledge has to get manifested, like what we read in the 11th canto, if this knowledge has to actually get manifested to the disciple, and then that has to come from a bona fide spiritual master. That is why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in spite of having so much knowledge, in spite of having his own father as somebody who is a very great personality, still accepted initiation from Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj, even though from a material standpoint he was an illiterate, from a spiritual standpoint he was completely absurd. It is said that he used to eat the mud of Radhakund and Shamkund. Eat the mud of Radhakund and Shamkund. He used to be so austere. He used to always be absorbed in thinking about it. That was his mental makeup. So these are how great personalities think. And that is why this one of the important facets to becoming a student is to become humble. Because if you don't become humble, you can't become a student. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared as Nimai Pandit, was a great scholar, could defeat everyone. But to show people an example that this knowledge can be received only through, disciplic succession, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Ishwara. What about the 6 Goswamis? Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami were Karnataka Saraswat Brahmins. They knew everything. Sanatan Goswami, read the pastimes of Sanatan Goswami, explained that he went on leave for 6 months and he was reading the Bhagavatam, which means he knew the Bhagavatam. Even before he surrendered, he finally met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He knew everything at Varanasi before Sanatan Goswami met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Varanasi and took instructions from him. But even before that, Sanatan Goswami knew everything. So was Rupa Goswami, very exalted personality. They're all Karnataka Saraswat Brahmins. Of course, they worked for the Muslim government. But they were great personalities. Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami had association of Haridas Thakur. He had the association of Yadunandan Acharya. See, these Goswamis, they were all very perfect. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, his father was Venkata Bhatta. They were all coming from family lineages where this knowledge was so clear to them. But in spite of that, they accepted the position as a position of a student to understand this knowledge. The humility was there. The humility was manifest. They never said they knew everything. No. In fact, that's why the mood of the Goswamis, one of the things that we understand from the Goswamis, we read the pastimes of the Goswamis, is that this element of humility we learn from the Goswamis. Because the way the Goswamis used to think about them, so one of the ways in which all of us can learn humility is usually the reason why humility is difficult for everyone, including everyone, is because we tend to compare ourselves with somebody who's inferior to us. At least that's the way we think, right? If somebody is chanting 8 rounds and we are chanting 16 rounds, we'll think, oh, I'm a great devotee. I'm able to chant 16 rounds. My position is exalted. But the Goswamis, the way they used to think was, oh, I'm thinking about Krishna 22 hours a day. There is this great personality who's thinking about Krishna 24 hours a day. Oh, how fallen I am. I'm not able to think Krishna for 2 hours. See, that is how they used to think. So when we compare ourselves with personalities who are higher to us, then automatically humility will manifest. But when we compare ourselves with personalities who are lower to us, that's when pride will manifest. And the Goswamis teach us that we should always compare ourselves with personalities higher. It's like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's always praising Vrindavan Das Thakur. He's telling Vrindavan, oh, how great is Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavan Das Thakur knows everything. Because Vrindavan Das Thakur has written everything in Chaitanya Mangal and Chaitanya Bhagavad. And what I'm doing here is very little service. So that is the mood of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He's so humble. He's saying, if anybody, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, if anybody tells my name, or he will rot in hell. But is that real? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas. His name has Krishnadas. If anybody says Krishna's name, will they rot in hell? No, right? But that's the position of humility that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying. Oh, he is so humble. And because this humility is manifest, that is why all of this knowledge becomes manifest to Krishnadas Kaviraj. At the age of 94, he's writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he's taking instructions from Raghunath Das Goswami, the banks of Radhakund. Isn't that wonderful? He can hardly open his eyes. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is so old when he's compiling the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's hardly able to even open his eyes. He has to use his hands to, lift his eyelids. But at that age, this is so much humility. This parampara, this Brahma, Gaudiya, Vaishnava Sampradaya is full of humility. Full of humility. Our own Srila Prabhupada, oh, how humble Prabhupada is. Prabhupada himself, so humble. He knows everything, but still, he takes the position, sometimes as a student, to understand all of this. It is said that when Srila Prabhupada, before he traveled to America, Prabhupada, when he was staying in Vrindavan, he used to take classes. So he used to call all the Brajvasis in Vrindavan. And he used to take classes in English language. Now the Brajvasis didn't know English. They only knew Hindi. But still, Srila Prabhupada used to assemble all the Brajvasis. And in the evening, he used to take classes in English. So one of the devotees was curious to understand why Prabhupada is giving class in English, because Brajvasis don't understand English very much. They all understand Hindi. So Prabhupada said he was preparing himself to preach in America. So when he goes to America, he has to speak in English language, right? So Prabhupada was preparing for that when he was in Vrindavan, so that he could, when he goes to America, he can speak in English language. You see, Prabhupada knows everything. Everything is clear to him. He studied in Scottish Church College, which is very, very reputed institute, very reputed college in Calcutta. But despite all that, Prabhupada takes the position of a student. Oh, I should understand. I should know how to speak English language well, so that when I go to America, I can preach this philosophy nicely. So this is the mood of this sampradaya. And that similar mood is expressed here by Narada Muni. Narada Muni is a great personality. He knows everything. But still, he takes the position of a student. Oh, I want to understand this knowledge. Without being submissive, I cannot understand this knowledge. That's why this karpanya dosha prahata swabhavam, this word karpanya is it comes in the principles of Sharanagati. So when we talk about Shat Vidhi Sharanagati, the 6 principles of surrender, Karpanya comes there. Karpanya means humility. Without humility, without Karpanya, without the taking the position of a student, surrender to the Lord is not possible. This knowledge manifesting itself is not possible. If this knowledge has to be manifested, it's not possible if one takes the position of a master, thinks that he knows everything, then this knowledge is not possible. There's a very nice pastime in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think we'll probably conclude with that. That will give us further insights on why it's important to take this position of a student. So, in the 7th chapter of the Antya Leela, there is this scholar called Vallabha Bhatta. So, Vallabha Bhatta, so he came to Jagannath Puri. So, what used to happen is, every year, devotees from Bengal, they used to assemble in Jagannath Puri because when the Ratha Yatra used to happen, the Ratha Yatra was such a great festival, still remains a great festival. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to dance. And there used to be different groups. One group which is led by Advaita Acharya, one group led by Srivas Thakur, one group led by Nityananda Prabhu, one group led by Vakreshwar Pandit, one group led by Gadadhar Pandit. So this way, there used to be many groups that used to dance in front of the chariot. And it was such a festive occasion that devotees from Bengal used to come to Jagannath Puri to witness this beautiful dancing. And the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is such a feast to the eyes. So in one such year, there was a devotee by name Vallabha Bhatta who came over to Jagannath Puri. This Vallabha Bhatta was a great scholar. He knew about Vedic literature very well. So he came to Jagannath Puri and he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he exchanged greetings to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He praised to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, "You're such a great scholar. You're such a great devotee. And I've come here to personally witness you dancing before the Rath Yatra." So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew about this Vallabha Bhatta. He knew that this Vallabha Bhatta was a great scholar, but at the same time, he knew that he had a lot of pride in his heart. He knew that this Vallabha Bhatta was a great scholar, but he had a lot of pride in his heart. He always used to think he knows everything. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu somehow wanted to destroy this pride from his heart. So when Vallabha Bhatta visited Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced Vallabha Bhatta to all of his associates. He told that this is Advaita Acharya. This is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced. He told him, this is Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya is the Supreme Lord himself. He's manifested in this world to disseminate this knowledge. Right? And then he said, this is Srivas Thakur. This is Gadadhar Pandit. This is Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai, he knows Rasa Tattva. I learned the Rasa Tattva from Ramananda Rai. So this is the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced all his associates to Vallabha Bhatta. And the reason he introduced them this way was because Mahaprabhu wanted to teach Vallabha Bhatta that he has learned, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has learned all of these different tattvas from these great personalities. So he told him, I learned Rasa Tattva from Ramananda Rai. I learned Madhurya Rasa from Swarupa Damodar Goswami. Right? So this is how he made the introduction. Now, when this introduction was made this way, Vallabha Bhatta was wondering, why is it that Mahaprabhu is making introduction this way? Mahaprabhu is introducing all his associates. And it seems like Mahaprabhu is a great personality, but he's taking the position of a student and telling me that he's learned all of this from these great personalities. So this was a little not clear to Vallabha Bhatta. So the next day, Mahaprabhu invited Vallabha Bhatta and he gave him an opportunity to do some service to all these devotees, because Vallabha Bhatta was also interested. Oh, you're saying all of these are great personalities. You're telling me that Advaita Acharya is Swayam Ishvara. You're telling me Ramananda Rai he understands the philosophy of Rasa Tattva. Swarup Damodar Goswami knows Madhurya Rasa. So I want to see all these great personalities. Gadadhar Pandit, oh, he's a Shironmani. I want to see all these great personalities and serve them. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this Vallabha Bhatta the opportunity to serve all these Vaishnavas. So after Vallabha Bhatta doing this service and he gave them prasadam, all the other devotees, and at that time when he was doing all of this service, Vallabha Bhatta was seeing that all the devotees would come from Bengal, right? They were not sitting in the main hall. They were all sitting in the courtyard because there's not enough place to sit. They were all sitting in the courtyard. That time, Vallabha Bhatta was wondering, why are all these devotees sitting in the courtyard? Um, why can't they be sitting inside and, and partaking prasadam with all these great personalities? So he was not very clear. He was thinking, maybe, how is it that they're taking the position of being so humble? Why are they all sitting in the courtyard and taking prasadam? So this was something that Vallabha Bhatta was contemplating, but he was still not very clear about what he was going through. So this moved on. After the prasadam service was done, one day what happened? This Vallabha Bhatta came to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he came to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu something. So let's go through some verses of the discussion between Vallabha Bhatta and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is CC. Yeah. So one day after the festival was over, Vallabha Bhatta went to the abode. So this is after the Rath Yatra was over. Vallabha Bhatta went to the abode of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submitted a request at his lotus feet. Now see what Vallabha Bhatta is telling. He is telling, I've written a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Would you like to hear? So this Vallabha Bhatta, because he thought himself as a very great personality, he said, I have written a commentary on the Bhagavatam. Would you like to hear it? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu responded, the response to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'll not go through all the verses, some important verses. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu responded. He said, the Lord replied, I do not understand the meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Indeed, I'm not a suitable person to hear its meaning. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discouraged Vallabha Bhatta from writing a commentary of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, I am not interested in Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, he said, I am not a suitable person to hear. All I know is Krishna. So if it's in the next verse, Mahaprabhu says, I simply sit and try to chant the holy name of Krishna. And although I chant all day and night, I nevertheless cannot complete the chanting of my prescribed number of rounds. Right? So Mahaprabhu is trying to teach Vallabha Bhatta that, I don't know the meaning of Bhagavatam because, of course, Mahaprabhu knows the meaning of the Bhagavatam, but he's taking a humble position and he's trying to teach through that to Vallabha Bhatta. So he's saying, I don't have time, I don't know about the Bhagavatam. So Vallabha Bhatta then persists. He then says, okay, do you know the meaning of the word Krishna? He says, do you know the meaning of the word Krishna? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, to me, I know only two meanings to the word Krishna. One is Krishna means Shama Sundar. Krishna means Shama Sundar. He has a dark blue construction. So see, Vallabha Bhatta said, I have tried to describe elaborately the meaning of Krishna's holy name. Kindly hear the explanation. So to that, Mahaprabhu says, I do not accept many different meanings for the holy name of Krishna. I know only that Lord Krishna is Shama Sundar and Yashodhana. That's all. So in this way, to both of these questions or both of these clarifications or both of these suggestions that Vallabha Bhatta was making to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ignored both of these requests because he knew that Vallabha Bhatta was very proud. Then Vallabha Bhatta did not leave this. So Vallabha Bhatta was feeling a little depressed. He felt that whatever I'm taking to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was rejecting it. So another day, what he did, he came and told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know what, Mahaprabhu? I have done something very interesting. I have written a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam by refuting what Sridhara Swami has written. So Sridhara Swami, as you all know, has written a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a very authentic commentary that is presented in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. But this Vallabha Bhatta wanted to demean that commentary. He said that he has found some mistakes in the commentary which is written by Sridhara Swami. And so he was presenting to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that his commentary, the commentary that Vallabha Bhatta has written, is far more superior than what Sridhara Swami has written. So Mahaprabhu did not accept it. Mahaprabhu said, I will not accept any commentary which has not been written by Sridhara Swami. what you're presenting in the Bhagavatam, if it is not in line with the authorized system, that is not acceptable to me. So this Vallabha Bhatta, he was again feeling very rejected. And this time, what Vallabha Bhatta did, he came back and he started looking inward. He started pondering, what is the mistake that I'm committing? Why is it that whenever I'm taking or whatever I'm taking to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is rejecting that? So he started thinking about his um, his state. Why is it that I'm getting rejected by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? I thought I'm very favorable to him, but he's rejecting whatever I'm taking to him. So then Vallabha realized that his fault was that he was thinking that he knew everything. There was pride in his heart, is something that Vallabha realized. So then Vallabha goes back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is explained here in verses starting from 125. So thinking in this way, Vallabha Bhatta approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the next morning, and in great humility, offering many prayers, he sought shelter and surrendered at the lotus feet of the Lord. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, see, this is very interesting. Mahaprabhu is saying, Vallabha Bhatta admitted, I am a great fool, and indeed I have acted like a fool by trying to demonstrate to you my learning. I'm just going to read some of these verses. It'll be interesting. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have showed mercy to me in a way just befitting your position by insulting me to cut down all my false pride. Yeah. So sometimes Mahaprabhu used to insult so that through that insult, the student will learn. I am an ignorant fool, for I interpret as an insult what is meant for my benefit. Just like King Indra, who out of ignorance tried to surpass Krishna, the Supreme Lord. My dear Lord, you have cured the blindness of my false pride by sparing my eyes with the ointment of your mercy. You have bestowed so much mercy upon me that my ignorance is now gone. Right? So Mahaprabhu starts speaking. My dear Lord, I've committed offenses. Please excuse me. I take shelter of you. Please be merciful unto me by placing your lotus feet on my head. Yeah, see. So this is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts explaining. Prabhu kahe, tumi pandita mahabhagavata, dui guna yahan taha nahi garva parvata. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are both a greatly learned scholar and a great devotee. Wherever there are two such attributes, there cannot be a mountain of false pride. So usually, if you're a great scholar, but if you're not a devotee, then there will be pride. But here, because both these qualities are there in Vallabha Bhatta, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that this mountain of false pride that you're having cannot last for long. So he goes on to explain, and this is where Mahaprabhu explains the importance of why we should connect to the previous acharyas. You have dared criticize Sridhara Swami, and you have begun your own commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, not accepting this authority. That is your false pride. Right? And he says, Sridhara Swami is a spiritual master of the entire world because by his mercy we can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. I therefore accept him as a spiritual master. Then, whatever you write, you might write due to false pride. Trying to surpass Sridhara Swami would carry a contrary purport. Therefore, no one could pay attention to it. Right? This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. Then he's saying, one who comments on Srimad Bhagavatam following in the footsteps of Sridhara Swami will be honored and accepted. So you see how much importance Mahaprabhu is giving to Sridhara Swami. The commentaries that is coming from it. He said, put forth your explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam following in the footsteps of Sridhara Swami. Give up your false pride. Worship the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. Abandoning your offenses, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, the holy names of the Lord. Then very soon you will achieve shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Aparada chadi kara Krishna sankirtan achirat pave thave Krishna rechara. So Mahaprabhu concludes the discussion to Vallabha Bhatta by this statement. So from this pastime, you very clearly understand that anything that we try to do, right, against the line of this succession, if we try to become a master, always a master, and not become a student to the Srimad Bhagavatam, because all of this has already been written. All that we have to do is become a student to understand this knowledge. And when we take that mood and understand this knowledge, then the purport of this Bhagavatam will be very clear to us. So Vallabha Bhatta in this pastime, he was trying to circumvent, he was trying to go beyond Sridhara Swami and trying to write his own commentary in the Bhagavatam and trying to become a scholar of the Bhagavatam instead of accepting what is already available in the disciplic succession. And that is why he could not be a proper student of the Bhagavatam. Whereas Narada Muni, in this particular verse that we are discussing today, despite being somebody who understands everything, who knows this knowledge completely, is prepared to accept this knowledge as it is coming from the disciplic succession, from the Lord to Brahma and from Brahma to him. And which is why Narada Muni is the perfect student of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the perfect master and the perfect student come together to discuss about the process of creation. So with that, these few words, I'll conclude the discussion today. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take. Or I'll defer it to Prem Chaitanya Prabhu or Prahlad Prabhu. They have a deeper understanding of the subject being asked for.
Prabhu, question has been asked in the chat box.
Okay, let me just. Hare Krishna Prabhuti, please accept humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Why are austerity is important in devotee's life? Okay, austerity is important in a devotee's life because only through this process of austerity, like Prabhupada gives this very beautiful example. We are all in a conditioned state, right? We are all in a conditioned state, which means we are all diseased. Basically, the fact that we have forgotten our true identity of being a servant of the Supreme Lord itself means that we are in a diseased condition. So when we are in a diseased condition, obviously we have to take medicine. And that medicine for us is the process of devotional service, beginning with chanting. But when we take the medicine, we also have to follow some precautions. Just like when you fall ill, and if you have to recover from that illness, you have to take some medicines and at the same time follow some precautions. Those precautions are what we call as austerities. So unless we take those austerities and follow those precautions, the disease will not get cured. And which is why austerities are important. Austerities are important only to cleanse our heart, to purify us. In fact, in our movement, Prabhupada explains this. Actually, there aren't too many austerities. Okay? And if you look at from a Krishna conscious standpoint in terms of what we follow as a devotee, there aren't actually too many austerities. Just a 16 rounds, 4 principles. Right? Technically, these are not very difficult things to follow. These are things which anybody is usually or normally expected to follow. So that's why Prabhupada says, I have given you very little as austerities. All that you have to do is just follow these simple principles. Then you can go back home. But to answer to your questions, that is why austerities are important because it helps you purify and it helps you come out of this disease of condition. Okay, hope that answers your question. Prabhu, do we have sources that Vallabha Bhatta is Vallabha Acharya? Okay, honestly, I don't know the answer whether Vallabha Bhatta is the same as Vallabha Acharya. I think they're two different personalities because this Vallabha Bhatta that we are referring to here is from Bengal. I'm not sure if Vallabha Acharya is from Bengal. Vallabha Bhatta, that is being specifically referred in this pastime that we discussed today, is from Bengal. So I'm assuming they are two different personalities. Okay. There's nothing else. We can conclude. Thank you so much. It's a very nice opportunity to talk to all of you. I hope the discussion was clear to you in terms of why we should accept the position of a student. In fact, we should be a lifelong student of the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. Should be a lifelong student because this knowledge is so deep that it is not possible for us to ascertain this knowledge, in 1 minute or in one moment. There's so much that we have to learn. And the more we remain in this position of a student and we keep learning this knowledge, the more we'll become humble. And the more we become humble, the import of all of this Vedic knowledge will easily get assimilated to us. So thank you very much. Karantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. Great class, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all Krishna Prabhupada. Very enlightening class, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
नितै पदा